You better hold tight to your togas, because things are about to get serious. In the following session, we will reach almost 100k population. First, we're going to take a look at my patented swamp cities. Yes, you heard right. Cities in the swamp, which will help the bread island to massively take off. We will see how our major population island M1 developed. We finished the amphitheater and we took over a governor. We're going to get started on the pig island for the soap, the lavender island for the soap. We're going to see the expanse on the olive island and also the ship island. During each of those parts, I will have the chance to show you all my grid strategy for the cities. Now in Albion, I was laying down some 2x5 grid to get in some more Romanized Celts. We eventually need a lot of nobles to unlock the bathhouse and the temple. When you upgrade your waiters and you happen to accidentally upgrade them to smiths instead of mercators, like I just did, you can also hold down the Alt key and downgrade them. To get the Romans in here fast, I also wanted to add the gambling house. And after that, I got started on a small bread production that would help me to upgrade the mercators later to nobles. To upgrade them, I would also need olive oil. And then I also need either soap or brooches. Since brooches only need the ore, which we already happen to have on this island, I decided to set up the production chain for those. After a while, I was able to upgrade the first nobles and kept upgrading the waiters, because in total it will need 1,400 nobles for the bathhouse and the temple. I realized I still wasn't close, so I kept building more waiters. For the increased population, it was also necessary to add more cockle pickers. Eventually, I reached enough of them, and then it was finally time to get started on building the entire city in the swamp. To fully make it happen, we will need the raising sluices development from the research tree, and to get that, we will need to build 12 mines in Albion. If you don't already have that, you can just quickly put down a bunch of mines until you unlocked that part of the research tree. While we are waiting for that, we can at least get started on the system. And this is how we do it. Number 1, you connect the draining systems on the very outside of the swamp. Number 2, you place a straight line from the outside towards the inside. Number 3, build houses on each side of the line. This will be our base layout. I picked a 2x4 grid and we will build the roads all the way along the line like this. Number 4, the second line next to it has to be 14 tiles apart, which leaves enough space to place a regular block of houses in between. If you leave less or more space than 14 tiles, it will not work. And while I was waiting for the draining research, I added some more wheat for the massive bread production we are building here. As soon as you unlock the raised sluices, then you continue with the drain lines with the same distance between them until you are able to build the entire city grid on the area that formerly was just a swamp. Towards the end, you can check where you want to build the bathhouse and the temple, and as we know, we're trying to reach as many houses with that as possible. And to fit these two, I had to make a minor adjustment to fit the temple. You see it right here, I had to move the drain slightly over. I continued with the road, added the gambling house, the elder council, and later all the city watches. After that, we can continue with the public houses like the market and the bardic hearth. And since I already had my houses in the north, I just moved them all over into the grid. Took a couple of trips, but I kept grabbing them and placing them into their new location. When all of them were moved over, I started to fill out the gaps with new houses, which we will need for the workforce, but mainly for the series buff, which will buff the entire bread production by a considerable amount. Fill in the gaps and make some adjustments if you need to. And now I am adding the donkey mills for the bread chain, and I placed the bakeries right next to them. I didn't like my layout at first, so I did change that a little bit. And later, when we add an office for some specialists, we have the chain in one place. You all see how that works? Don't produce bread in Latium, and don't let anyone tell you to do that. It's wasted space in Latium. And on the island down here, we are going to do the exact same thing, but this island we plan to be the animal island, mainly with pigs for the soap production. So we settled on it, built the basic infrastructure, and getting started on the swamp just like we did on the bread island. There are our drain lines again, and I'm setting up the roads for the city on here. Here is a wider shot, and with the drain system you can imagine how big of a swamp we were able to turn into a very smooth pasture, which we are again going to build a city on. Build the temple, bathhouse and gambling house. After that, I got started on the pigs that we later are going to need for the soap. You probably noticed that I left a little spot empty next to the pig farms, which will be for the silo. The silo will be filled with wheat, which will result in another boost to the pig farms. By the way, the belief we're choosing for this island will be Epona, since she will buff the animal production. I also added the renderer for the soap chain and started to send it off to the tiny island I'm going to boost the soap on in Latium. By the way, I did end up settling on a small island to build the shoes, but this is also for the soap production. We have Epona here to take advantage of her population buff for production buildings. The buff is just good enough to help us with the workforce here. Over there, we're going to add the soap factories, and the lavender we will get from the Lavender Island. How we settled on the Lavender Island and how we built on there, we will take a look at later. And there we go, we just built up a massive bread production on one single island and the soap production on a few different islands. On the M1 island, I will have a chance to show you now with a closer look how we are structuring our city grids with the city watches and the public buildings. I start by building a normal 2x5 grid and then placing down the city watches and the public buildings. And when I do that, the green roads will show me which houses will be covered in the city. That will leave me with only the gaps that I can then fill up with houses. In this example here, I will just move over the houses that we already have, just like I did on Albion a moment ago. After I moved over all the houses and ripped down all the leftover buildings, plus the roads we don't need anymore, we will have a giant field that I now can use to make a clean 2x5 grid. The first public house that I'm going to build is the gambling house. And with the green roads again, I can see all the houses that will be covered by it later. I can already make some adjustments and then continue to build the city watches. The only smaller public buildings we need for now is the tavern, the market and the grammaticus. And after that, I can just fill out everything with houses. I can now also add the temple, bathhouse and the forum. And I start upgrading all the laboratory to plebeians. To upgrade the plebeians to equites, I will also need the grammaticus. And there we go, we're already on equites. Adding more shoes for the massive shoe demand we have now. Keep upgrading houses. We want a lot of patricians on here. Amphitheater is going well, but we do need to increase the marble production, so we're going to use the Toga Island for that. We're also going to need gold for the amphitheater, so we're going to build a little gold production right on here. And there are our patricians. To unlock 100% ship construction speed through the research tree, we eventually have to defeat a governor. Therefore, we're going to bring in Dorian, since he will be easy to take over without going to war. For now, we're focusing on the caviar production, since we have the resources we need on this island, and the caviar production will also increase the population for the surrounding houses. We can move 4 houses to perfectly fit a caviar production. To appoint Dorian as a specialist, pretty much all you need is the amphitheater, some ground units, and then you can appoint him as a specialist and therefore have defeated him. Now I'm trying to turn the northern part of the island into a grid, and we're proceeding as usual with the grid, the city watches, the smaller public buildings and then the houses. Sometimes there's a little bug where the public buildings don't show the green roads. For that I just put down a lot of houses and looked at the green arrows they show to know where to place the public buildings. And that was how far we got with the M1 population island today. Now let's check out how I built the soap island. We already seen it happen 2 times now. We're gonna start with the grid, bring over a lot of concrete for that, and we copy and we paste the grid. Next thing that is going to happen is we're gonna put the big public buildings on there, the forum, the bathhouse, and the temple. Then the city watches, you all know how it works, the small public buildings, and the houses. And we can get started on the lavender that we need for the soap. But we're not going to put the soap production on here. This is just for the lavender. From earlier, you already remember the pigs and the renderer we have in Albion, and we're going to ship them over to this little island where we're also going to ship over the lavender from this big island over here. That will be then our soap production, which we will eventually bring over to the big M1 island. There is not much that happened on the Toga island. Remember, Minerva will help us to increase the entire Toga production chain. I just ripped down the olive fields that we had on there. I increased the flax production and doubled the toga production on there. Our next stop is the olive oil island that we are going to expand on. But before we can build up more olive fields and the olive oil presses, we have to increase the workforce on here. By now it's probably gonna get boring, but as usual we're going to build our grid, our city watches, and our public buildings with the bathhouse and the forum and the temple that we always need. What I also wanted to do is, since Ceres will be having a big buff on this island, we can also send over porridge to the major population island, add the porridge production for those, and then we can increase the olive fields and the olive oil presses for those. Eventually I move them down there to use even more space up there for more olive fields. Maybe at some point we have to reorganize us here, because we soon might be able to find a specialist that will also help the olive oil presses. Anyways, as soon as we have this built, we can send over all the olive oil to the M1 island. Now on the ship island, we are going to need a lot more workforce for all the ships we're going to produce. As we did it 4 times already now, we're going to build a grid. And remember, there is a development in the research tree that will allow you to only pay 50% of the concrete cost for all the roads you build. And since you by now know how I built my cities, I'm once again speeding this up one little bit faster than usual. And that was it for today. In this entire session we reached almost 100k population, and I'm excited to see how high it will get in the next video. If you would like me to go more in depth on specific topics, let me know in the comments, and see you next time.